Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate this. This is an important hearing, and I apologize to all of you. I've been at another important hearing and have just arrived, so forgive me if I tread on some territory, although I think I'm in an area that will be a little different than what you've been asked before. I'm going to ask all of you, if you would tell me briefly the answer when I get there. Much of the focus on DOE's national security programs is directed toward the work undertaken at the three labs overseen by the NNSA. However, a number of other labs also support vital national security activities. Does the department recognize the role of the non-NNSA labs in supporting the national security mission, and are those labs incorporated into the process? In other words, are they in the loop for some of the things where they may have an expertise that the three NNSA labs do not have as much expertise, or where they have overlapping expertise? Whoever wants to answer it. All right.
Okay, sure. Yes, there is a real strong effort to make sure that those labs are involved in the joint assessments of the mission needs and the like. A couple of the examples would be Oak Ridge in Tennessee and the Pacific Northwest Lab up in Washington State, both very actively involved in the nuclear weapons programs and the national security non-proliferation programs too. There's a lot of that sort of integration, and that's one of the things that Norm Augustine just mentioned we would lose if you moved the NSA laboratories out, but those other labs are still in the Department of Energy.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. And it's part of why I asked the question, because while as the crow flies, I may be a good distance away from Oak Ridge, my district is in the Tennessee Valley Authority region, so we want to make sure we take care of that. In your opinion, I'll just continue with you if I might, and feel free to jump in if you have something to add. But in your opinion, do you believe the labs work together effectively to support the DOE mission overall? Are you aware that the labs are working cooperatively to present joint mission research to Congress? What else do you believe that the labs should be doing to support the DOE mission?
This is an area that we did spend a good deal of time looking at. We think that the labs are very actively involved in supporting the mission or the missions of the department. But we also are concerned that there are times that the laboratories do not share as much information with each other and with the Department of Energy as they should. And that in early stages of new technology or new issue exploration, you want a lot of new ideas explored. You want a lot of people to do a lot of things independently. But as that matures and becomes a program area or an area of more importance, the department needs to step in and assert more leadership in terms of where we're going to conduct that research, what are the degrees of coordination that you want among the laboratories and all. And right now the department has let that go on too long. There are some activities that this secretary has begun to try to integrate that more, and he's got some cross-cut activities he talks about, is making some progress. But that's an area that we call out for increased attention of the department, and the department needs to step up to its responsibilities in those areas.
Well, I appreciate that. The labs have been described as the nation's crown jewel in reference to basic and applied science work they do. Do you believe, and it sounds like you do, but do you believe the national labs have a unique role and their work is not duplicated elsewhere? And I'm talking about all the labs, not just the three.
Yes, we certainly do, and have come to that conclusion and think that it's important as you look at all those missions, which the National Defense Mission, nuclear, the role is an important one, but also the whole role in innovation for the country and the role in working with the private sector and with the universities, the basic research support. These are all very important, and they are ones that we do not feel are duplicated, but rather that complement all the other agencies and other roles of the government.
Now, I've got about 50 seconds left, and I have a long question here, so I'm going to skip the question and just say, what else do you think can be done to bring about that process where the labs are working together, and what should the DOE be doing to facilitate that?
Well, I'll go ahead since I've got the microphone here, and I think that it's the relationship of the openness and working in partnership that is really key. And that's partnership not just with the Department of Energy and the labs, but among the labs as well. And that actually is better now than it has been for years. I think that, again, this secretary deserves some credit for this, and this set of laboratory directors do too. So continuing to support the Laboratory Directors Council, supporting their work together as a group is very important.
Well, I appreciate that. If I could take just a minute, Mr. Chairman. I used to be a small town lawyer, and it sounds like what you're saying is that you ought to do something maybe by Skype or by the internet. But we had a group of most of the lawyers in town were in 1-2 person law firms. I think the big one was 3, and every Wednesday, when I was practicing, and to this day, the lawyers that were available would congregate at the local watering hole, Mac and Bob's on Main Street, and share ideas and best practices and what was working and what the judges were looking at and that kind of thing. It sounds like that's what you want to do for the labs, is give them an opportunity to say what's working best and where we're going so that we can make this process more efficient.
Yes, and they are learning a lot from each other and actually improving the whole system. Did you want to add something?
If I'm able to add something.
Sure.
Thank you. I just wanted to add something to what TJ said, which goes to your last question, but ties back to your very first one. That is, one of the things we recommended, our commission recommended, was that each of the lab create an annual report, yet another report. But this one focused on a very high-level attempt to integrate all that the lab does. The big multi-purpose labs, Oak Ridge is a great example, gets their support from many different offices within DOE. And there's not been enough effort to try to understand the whole of what Oak Ridge does. That would be a very valuable thing to do for the laboratory and for DOE. So it goes back to your point about whether we recognize all that the non-weapons labs do for the weapons program, yes. But going from the other direction, I'm not sure we always recognize all that the individual labs do, taking in their totality, especially the big multi-purpose ones.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, with that, I appreciate your indulgence and yield back.
Gentleman yields back now. Recognize Ms. Chakowski of Illinois for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.